Crypto CEOs went to Congress and got a warm welcome. So this is quite interesting. Let's see if they have that. Let's see if there's two here. Okay. The tone of Congress towards crypto was markedly changed from past years. Crypto executives received encouragement from both Democrats and Republicans, with only one exception. So, top executives talking, and we're going to talk about this in our Bitcoin update video this week as well. In the past, it would have triggered indignation and scoldings, but instead, the crypto execs were greeted with curiosity and even encouragement. 5-hour hearing took place before the U.S. Committee on Financial Services, where 6 CEOs, including Sam Bankman-Fried of FTX, testified about the growing importance of crypto and the industry's desire for regulation. And, you know, I don't know. Is it a coincidence that they were really friendly to Sam Bankman-Fried and he is the number 2 donor to the branding campaign? He was the number 2 donor for that. I don't know. There may be a connection there. I'm not sure. But, you know, Brian Brooks worked for Trump. So, you know, it's hard to really say.
I think they're covering their bases pretty well.
Yeah.
Crypto people, you know, the ones that were up there.
Yeah.
Reaching the right
Almost
balance.
like by design.
Yes, very by
Almost. 5-hour hearing took place before the U.S. House Committee on Financial Services. Let's see. While such hearings in the past have focused almost entirely on the criminal use of Bitcoin, Wednesday's session saw members inquire about everything from the security advantages of blockchain technology to the potential for crypto to provide greater financial inclusion. I would like, when are they going to invite me to come talk? Congress.
Maybe we should send them a letter.
Maybe we should. I would love to go to Congress, or to some committee and talk about the content creation side from crypto and the responsibilities that we have and how the lack of clarity and regulation for us. You know, I think that would be really good. I think that's a conversation they need to have. And hopefully that can clear up a lot of the kind of like FUD out there that exists towards YouTubers and people on Twitter. Now, look, there are some people out there that definitely do bad stuff. There's no question about that. But there's a lot of misunderstandings out there driven by a lot of trolls. And I would love to go up to Capitol Hill and talk about this stuff and give my opinion on my experience here, because we're put behind the 8 ball on a lot of stuff, and we shouldn't have to be. So Web3 can empower anyone, said Anthony Gonzalez of Ohio, using a relatively new term that describes an emerging stack of applications that don't rely on centralized entities. Gonzalez and others repeatedly invoked the prospect of the U.S. losing out on crypto-related innovation as a result of cumbersome regulation, and asked if the industry would benefit from more cohesive policy from the government. Crypto CEO unsurprisingly agreed with the sentiment and urged Congress to clarify the overlapping jurisdictions between agencies like the SEC and CFTC and allow companies like Circle to become into the banking system. Let's see, talk about the ETF stuff. If a whole bunch of customers want to buy a Bitcoin ETF, why won't we let them? Who asked Alicia Haas, the company, and asked the SEC for details. She said, we've asked and we still do not have clarity on why our product cannot proceed. Some Democrats took a more skeptical view of the crypto industry. And I really believe that there are people on both sides that, you know, believe in crypto, and there's people on both sides that don't. But it definitely seems like to me that, you know, more, as it says right here, some Democrats on the committee, it seems like they're taking a more negative view of crypto. And if this shapes up to be a Republican versus Democrat issue, and Republicans become pro-crypto and Democrats become anti-crypto, then let me tell you, that's not going to work out great for them. So these Democrats really need to think about their positioning on things they say about crypto, because if this becomes a political issue, I will tell you, there are a lot of Democrats who will become Republicans overnight when it comes to this, because there's nothing people care about more than money. That's the thing people care about the most. That's the thing that impacts everyone on an equal level. Money. You can talk about some of these issues, Second Amendment issues. You can talk about, you know, other contentious Republican versus Democrat issues, and they don't necessarily affect everybody. You live in a pocket of the world where everybody around that lives around you is kind of like you and does what you do. And, you know, you see that when you go across the country, but when it impacts your money and you're investing, everyone cares about that. So I think that a lot of these skeptical Democrats really need to rethink their positioning and their posturing on some of this stuff, because it is not going to work out great for them. And the people they're hurting the most are the people that they pretend to care the most about. So let's see here. Rashida Tlaib asked about Bitcoin mining's growing carbon footprint, Rep. Sylvia Garcia and Alma Adams press companies to provide data about diversity in their corporate ranks and user base. How stupid.
Yeah.
This is what we came to Congress to talk about, the diversity in your workplace. That has an impact on the overall crypto industry and regulation. They asked the wrong questions. So stupid. But even as they expressed such concerns, the Democratic members praised the potential for crypto and blockchain wallets to provide the lower cost. Somebody made a comment there. They said Trump was against crypto. He certainly came out and definitely said negative stuff about Bitcoin, and we held him accountable for that for sure. So, but as they expressed such concerns, Democratic members praised the potential for crypto and blockchain wallets to provide lower cost alternatives to existing banking system. So here, like I said, there's people on both sides. Richie Torres said, who represents one of the poorest districts in the South Bronx, exactly what I was talking about, the people that they want to help the most. They described how crypto offered a cheaper and faster way for many of his constituents to send remittance payments. Let's see. I think this is a really important story, so we're like spend a little more time on it.
Yeah, for sure.
Both Republicans and Democrats raised concerns about quantum computing. We've talked about that stuff too, whether crypto might undermine the US dollar as the world's reserve currency, which is also a serious issue. Only one member, Mr. Cul-de-sac himself, the weasel of all weasels. Remember, his number one donor, his number one campaign donor, credit card transaction processing company. Can't make this stuff up. They're all paid off by the banks. You guys know this. Brad Sherman broke from the cordial tone of the hearing, mocking the industry for adopting a vibe of stick it to the man. Of course, when you're the person that helps the proverbial man stay in his place.
Yep.
I hate this guy. Like he is the worst of all the politicians. I know we poke fun at Janet Yellen. Maybe not fun. We go after Janet Yellen because she's a fraud too. We go after her. We go after Dirty Gary. We go after Elizabeth Warren for all the stupid stuff they've said. We held, President Trump, former President Trump, accountable about his stuff. Brad Sherman's the worst. He is by far the very, very worst, most weaselly person that exists. I don't know if you live in his district. I don't know who votes for this guy. I can't wrap my brain around it. It must be highly uneducated people who don't know who he is. Because I don't know anyone who would ever listen to this guy talk for 5 minutes and be like, that's the guy I want to vote for. And when I say highly uneducated, I mean uneducated about politics specifically. I don't mean like no college degrees or something. That's a stupid argument. But anyway, I digress. The idea that you listen to this guy talk and you want to keep him in office, it just means that you don't like whoever the alternative is. You can't actually like this guy. Ugh. While allegedly receiving support from powerful Wall Street interests, he does. Sherman also blasted Coinbase for sending Haas rather than its top executive, Brian Armstrong. You have a problem, Brad, with him sending a woman? This guy's a woman hater. You see that? He has a problem with sending a woman, a high power a woman, than sending Brian Armstrong. I mean, what a fraud. What a fraud this guy is. Then sending its top executive, my uncle, Brian Armstrong, Uncle Brian, which you guys know. Okay, for full transparency's sake, he's not really my uncle, but I'd still like calling him Uncle Brian. Suggesting that Armstrong would eventually have to experience hearings like the ones Congress has meted out to Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg. While Sherman's withering attitude to crypto would have become in Congress even 3 years ago, his comportment on Wednesday made him an outlier. The tenor of this hearing won praise from many in the crypto community. Here's from Jake Chervisky. He says it was the most positive, constructive, and bipartisan public event on crypto I've seen in Congress ever. I mean that literally. That is really cool. It's not immediately clear what the upshot of Wednesday's hearing will be. The rules of the road in Web3 can be bipartisan. They have to be. They have to be. I mean, the SEC is supposed to be bipartisan. Anything that has to do with money is supposed to be bipartisan. Now, of course, the people that are in power, they get to pick who runs these places. But this is definitely something that needs to happen. There was a lot of talk about this independent crypto committee, not independent. I keep saying independent. A new committee that would regulate crypto, kind of like the SEC does. SEC has no business touching digital assets.
Nope.
Absolutely none. And I believe this is going to happen within 2 to 3 years. We're going to get a new commission, and it's not going to be perfect. We'll still complain about it. Don't think we're all going to be like, oh great, let's praise the regulators, but it will be far better than what we have. And I think that this is a very important first step. And I can't believe, after how bullish this hearing was yesterday, Bitcoin dropped today.
Unless it's a set, unless it's people accumulating before the big pump. But I think it has a lot to do with the traditional market getting hit.
Yeah, probably so.